Recording. Hello, everybody. It is your host, Kirby Gunnarsson, a.k.a. The Ball Brawlers, a.k.a. your defending Yarski champion, a.k.a. I'm defending my title, bitches. I'm with my co-host, as always, except for last week. Zach, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. It feels like forever since I've gotten to talk a little fantasy football. Had a little hiatus, but you know what? I think what we got set up this week is going to be pretty fire, so I'm pretty excited about it.
And you know what? We're here for the people, and we always try to switch things up. And so now we got two new guests. We decided to switch things up. We got new people that aren't even in the Yarski League this week. We got the two wives of our Sacco participants, Samantha Sapp and Morgan Axman. Morgan and Samantha, welcome to the pod. Come on into the picture. How are you guys doing this beautiful Tuesday afternoon?
I'm doing great.
I mean, I just got off a long day of work. This is exactly what I want to be talking about. Fantasy football.
Yeah, we're expecting some hard-hitting fantasy football analysis out of you too. So, I suppose, Curb, let's just dive right in, right? I mean, so Sammy and Morgan, you guys know why you're here. Your husbands are playing for the granddaddy of them all, a tradition unlike any other, the Sacco. So, before we get into any of that, I gotta ask, how much have you guys listened to the pod? Have your husbands told you much about the podcast? What's kind of been the talk around, the house per se?
Sammy, you want to go first? Oh no.
Oh, did Sammy?
Sammy's a little slow. So Morgan, let's kick it off with you.
Okay. Well, all I really know is that the only people who watch it are the Yarski. That's all I've heard. It's so good that the Yarski watches it.
Yeah, we're trying to get our views up. So, what about you, Sammy?
Sammy, have anyone else?
I'm aware that the podcast exists. I can't say that I have listened to an episode yet, but after being a guest, I think I might start.
There we go. That's what we're looking to.
That's what we like.
Our audience.
That's what we like to hear. We'll make sure to share the YouTube link to you both so you guys can watch it. And you guys are officially famous now. I mean, this is a very prestigious honor. And so I guess the next question I want to have, Sammy, we're going to lead it off with you. As you may or may not know, the last loser of your guys' husband's matchup is the Ball Sack Trophy, which needs to be shown in a public place for one whole calendar year, starting in August. So I want to ask, starting with Sammy and then moving to Morgan, if your husband loses the Sacco and has to display that terrible Ball Sack Trophy for 1 year in your brand new home for you, Sammy, is there a place that you have picked out for it? Or is there a certain punishment, or what kind of area do you think that needs to be displayed at?
I feel like, if you're in charge of having those precious balls in your house, that it needs to be in a spot where everybody can see it. So it's probably more than like end up on a TV stand. Morgan's, I pray up in Baby's room, but I mean, it's honestly up to her.
Sounding pretty confident about Sapp's fantasy football skills. I like that, Sammy. All right, Morgan, where you got a place picked out for the trophy in case it ends up there?
Well, I mean, Josh likes to talk a big talk, and he was all about bringing the damn belt to Bali. And then when it came back to it, the belt was no way. Belt, that's too embarrassing. He can't bring the belt to Bali. So I feel like the baby room, that's great. That's funny. Or I think we should make him put it in his office, right behind his head on the wall. He has to meet with his customers. It'll be a good conversation starter. I mean, just have this big ball sack behind him. I think that'll definitely get some embarrassment out of him.
That would be fantastic. If we could talk Axman into putting it into his office, that would be fantastic. That would be above and beyond the Call of Duty, because Curb, what's the rules? It just has to be in a public, or I'll say it again, it has to be in a room that everybody goes into.
It needs to be in a public room, so it can be somewhere. Whereas if you go into your garage every single day, you can post it on the garage, and you can look at that ball sack whenever you drive into your home every single day, knowing where you stand in life. It can be in a living room, a bedroom that you can hang. You can hang it on the ceiling, so your wife can know. It's like, oh God, I wish she had balls that were half as big as that. But you know what? So long as it's in a public place, it's not hidden from everybody, and so long as it's in a public place that we can all see whenever we go visit. And trust me, we will visit to make sure that it's in a public place. So long as it's out there, that's the only stipulation we have.
Right.
Okay.
Has to be visible, because there was rumors that Jared was keeping it in a drawer forever. So we can't have that. There will be audits to make sure we come and see it publicly displayed. So just so everybody's aware. So good. I'm glad to hear you guys have been thinking about a location. So I guess my next question is, how much have your husbands kept you in the loop on how this fantasy season has gone? Because honestly, it's been axe and sap at the bottom the whole year. Have they told you about where they at? Sammy, maybe we'll start with you. Have they told you about how the season has gone, or is this all new to you?
So, okay. Originally, I would ask Shane, like, how's the fantasy league going? Because he was always very excited. He did his weekly videos, but those stopped. So I was like, what's going on? And he said, not doing great, but he was holding out for the end of the year. And here we are.
Here we are.
How bad he was doing until a week ago. He said that there was a chance the ball sack would land in our house. But
That's fantastic.
How about you? How about you, Morgan?
Yes. So I have heard nothing but excuses out of Josh. And I think that is very, very, that sounds just like him, right?
That's what we've heard too.
Very big words. I want to say asinine, but that's not the word he's using. He says basically because of COVID, this year doesn't count. His player broke his knee, but he might as well have COVID. COVID, so games on Monday afternoons, there's games on Tuesday nights. Basically, this isn't football. Not football this year. Wipe it clean. He's not a loser. He's still a winner.
You've been hearing the same story we've been hearing. Basically, we've heard from Max that he's just straight up protesting the season no matter what. He will not accept any losses. It's a season under protest. Okay. Interesting.
Now,
that's
hasn't
Jared?
Jared's gotten the balls a few times, right?
Twice, yeah.
Oh, his team name is the Tua Time Sacco. So he's had the balls 2 years in his house, and Sam Getzinger has had it 2 years. So this will be the first year that neither Jared nor Biggs has had this last place trophy in their place.
So when I found out that Shane lost to Jared, I knew that the ball sack was probably going to land in our house this year.
That's usually an indication, because the way Jared's season's been going, if you're losing to Jared, things aren't going well.
Right.
All right, and you know what? We love that you guys got on. We kind of did this morning, and we're hoping to surprise everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we got one last question that we're going to have. We're going to lead it off with Morgan and then end it up with Sammy. I just want to know, do you have any lasting words that you want to say? Because this is going to be aired before decisions are made. Any last words that you want to say to either your husband or any smack that you want to talk to Sammy potentially? We're going to leave the floor to yours for some closing comments. Do you want to talk crap to Sammy or talk shit to Josh? Like, get your shit together, win this stuff so we don't have to have a ball sack either embracing our new home or our new child to be come January or February.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be pure embarrassment for our child. All I can say now is I hope we have a boy, because I think that if we have a boy, his balls would probably be bigger than Josh's at this point. So he's going to be real upset if he loses this.
Holy, we couldn't have said it any better ourselves.
Yeah, it's just got to be that way. Sorry, Sammy. Shane's just got to lose this. I can't put the Sacco in the hands of our newborn. Or in the balls of our newborn.
It's been a big year for Shane and I getting back to Carroll, and it's a big year for Josh and Morgan too. But honestly, getting the balls in the end, it's got to go to the new baby. I mean, that trumps moving to Carroll. So I truly hope that they end up with you. We have Friendsgiving every year, and it'd be a perfect place for us to go and get to see. I think the host Friendsgiving this year.
Dang.
I can just imagine Ross Or go ahead, Morgan. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead. I want to hear your comments.
I was gonna say it's perfect that it's Shane and Josh. If it's anybody, I feel like it just has to be Shane and Josh because the rivalry / love that they have for each other is such like a brosif thing that I feel like if anybody had to go balls to balls, it's gotta be them.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Especially with the way the fantasy football season has been. Those two have kind of been at the bottom all year. So it was the matchup that everybody wanted. So everybody's kind of getting the treat that everybody was hoping to see.
And absolutely. And I absolutely love the comment that Sammy said about trying to put the ball sack trophy on there for Friendsgiving. And I might be putting you two on the spot, but I would say, I'm just putting this out there. You guys can say no, but I would say the losing husband's wife has to say grace over the ball sack trophy next year for Friendsgiving. Are we so bold where you guys will say yes to that? Come on now. Let's have a little bit of skin in this game. Come on now. Saying grace over it.
In your house, then you got to say grace at Thanksgiving.
I feel like it's only appropriate.
Honor that you have.
There we go.
Yes, sounds like a yes.
We got ourselves a bet, baby. Okay, so now the stakes are raised between the wives of the two participants of the Sacco. The losing husband has to bring the last place trophy to Friendsgiving and say grace in honor of our last place trophy. The stakes cannot get any higher. I don't know about you, Zach. Can't get much better than this.
I mean, what we already knew was going to be a great match just got a little bit better. So I couldn't be more excited for this. Thank you guys for popping on and giving us your two thoughts. It's been wonderful. I wish they would have kept you guys in the loop a little bit better, and we'll make sure to get you guys the link of the podcast so you guys can be regular listeners.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for the fame.
All right. Much love. See you guys.
See you guys.
Oh my
Fantastic.
God, Zach, that couldn't have gone any better. We're still recording, and I think we just hit a home run on that bitch.
Yeah, and I can't take any credit. This was 100% Kirby's idea. He goes, "What do you think about getting Morgan and Sammy on the pod?" And I go, "That would be absolutely fire if that would work." And you know what? We manifested destiny. Here we are. We just had probably the best intro we've ever had. I mean, golly, does it get better than fantasy football?
Oh my God. And the thing is, we might have a small little bit of spoiler. Like when we did the introductions, it did say their name on there, but maybe they didn't realize it, and hopefully they're a little bit surprised. But here's our PSA to people that watched the pod a little bit early. Do not announce in the group chat who our special guests are on the pod. We're going to leave it very promiscuous in the group chat, so people have no idea, and hopefully we can surprise the two Sacco participants. Morgan and Sammy were great interviews that were played along with it perfectly. They jumped on and worked around their schedules, and they jumped on, and we're taping at 8:30 tonight, and they went above and beyond. So much thanks to them.
And supposedly, they kept it a secret from their husbands. So supposedly, as of right now, Axe and Sap do not know that their wives were just on the Yars cap. So, I mean, basically everything we could ask for. But, I suppose, should we talk a little fantasy football now, Curb?
I know. I think it's about time to get to the meat potatoes. We had ourselves our dessert, and we had it damn good early. But you know what? One of the first things that we kind of wanted to touch base on was your absence from last week's podcast. And I know that's something that you wanted to address on this week's podcast. So I guess right now I still actually have no idea what the reason was the absence. I guarantee you it's very justified, though. I was a little worried you went 0 dark 30 when we were just casually talking bets. I didn't even talk shit to you last weekend. But you went 0 dark 30. So you want to start with the justification of where you were just in the last week.
Well, I guess I didn't know why everybody was so surprised. I did the same 0 dark 30 shtick last year. I mean, that's just kind of my move. It's like, once the game starts, it's like, I turn the phone off. I'm watching football. I don't need anybody chirping and chiming in. Last year it was Sap and Bill were talking shit this week, and I came back on Monday night, turned my phone on, it was like, bam. So I did the same thing last year. So the fact that I went 0 dark 30, it's right out of my playbook. So I was surprised that anybody really saw it as anything other than status quo. Where I was, so a lot of people were thinking I was crying tears. Did I appreciate, the loss was hurtful, and I deserved all the shit talking that was said. So I wasn't running from it, I promise. Once I had heard Sap was moving to Carroll, I set out to find a new home. So we were out looking for a new home last Tuesday night. once Sapp moved in, there goes the neighborhood. So we were out looking for a new home. So that's honest to gosh, that's what we were up to last Tuesday.
You know what? That's exciting news. And you know what? I do not blame you at all. Once you hear that Sapp and his Sacco Ash is coming into your neighborhood, it's like, oh shit. I mean, there's only so much infection that you can contain. You lived with Josh for so many years, and that's why you haven't, despite all your research, never won the Yarski championship. You get that close to Sapp. I mean, you're just asking for a contagion, and it's never going to get any better for you.
I think so. And, one last clarification I forgot to mention. So I was totally good at hopping on. But with the other two guests, the only day that worked was Tuesday, and for me, it was the day we were gonna go look. So It was like literally the only day that didn't work. So it was like you guys can totally do it without me, but I just won't be able to do it Tuesday. So I wasn't running. Here I am. I'll take my L. Herb, you had a hell of a week. Kudos. Kudos on the W. So that kind of puts the absence to bed.
No, and I 100% agree. I mean, I know you're not running from it. I know you kind of went 0 dark 30 just in general. It's how you do it. And only reason I was a little talking shit because that morning you were sending me your best picks for gambling. And so I remember I sent you my best picks for gambling and I never got a response. I'm like, oh, okay, Zach, I'm not even talking about the fantasy. Let's try and get a little bit of interaction here. But yeah, it was all in good fun. And
yeah, I had already kind of I had gotten into the mode, I don't know how early you texted me, maybe an hour before the game started or something. And I was already amped for the game. So it was like, I don't need this phone in my face. I'm turning it off and I was ready to go. So that's kind of how that all went down. And, that's what happens. You let the media spin it a little bit and things get blown up, but here we are still in luck. I'm good. We're good.
And you know what? That's the beauty of it. We always have a lot of fun with it. We know we'll always face the music, win or lose. So, let's dive into a little bit quick of next week's matchup. You got one last thing you want to say. I can see it in your face.
No, go ahead. Let's keep going.
I was about to say, I don't know if we want to dive, what's more appealing? Do we want to jump into the Sacco playoffs or the Yarski playoffs? Just a quick overview of all the 4 matchups we had.
Well, let's maybe go backwards. Anything last week that you wanted to touch on with the big games last week, the kind of the games to get everybody to the finals? Anything?
Yeah, that's what I meant. A recap of last week's matchup.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to touch base on. Okay. So the number one, I think let's just touch base on this one because this is the one that had everyone talking. Kyler and Sapp, the matchup of matchups, the $100 bet, the 110 over under that Sapp put under. All of a sudden, he gets 109.9. Sapp Vegas, he's back, motherfuckers. Let's freaking roll. He is sitting here putting in all the lines that are 100% dead on. I watched the game. I saw that AJ Green got that second catch. I was like, oh, shit. He needed 2 catches for – he needed – I saw after his big 30-yard catch, like, shit, he needs 1 catch for about 10 yards, and he's going to get – I saw the second catch. I'm like, shit, does he have it? Does he have it? 1/10 of a yard short, 1 yard short right now. Assuming no more stat corrections, they'll be finalized tomorrow. But after that, payday for a whole bunch of people.
What an absolute electric factory. I mean, this is exactly why I told Sapp we needed those Vegas lines for all of the games. It turns it into an absolute electric factory. If we don't, well, Sapp's going to be busy, so I can't really blame him if we don't get the lines for this week. I'm hoping we get a line for the Sapp Josh matchup, but what an absolute electric factory. Kyler comes in, sends Sapp to the Sacco finals and steals $100 off the guy. I mean, come on. But the guy has a family. Like, Kyler just absolutely did him dirty, but boy, was it fun to watch. I mean, kudos to Kyler for dropping, what did he end up with? 120, 130, and his quarterback went out in the first drive. So, I mean,
I think he got 128 if I recall correctly, but it was somewhere right between that 120 to 130 range.
Yeah, 131, and he gets 2 out of his quarterback. So,
yep.
I mean, you got to tip the cap to Kyler. That, to me, that says a guy who didn't belong in the Sacco finals. Nobody in the Sacco finals is scoring 130. So, I think you got to tip the cap to Kyler. I think he's rightfully where he belongs, not in the Sacco finals. So, hell of a job by Ludd. I think the team looked pretty good. And then what about on the other side? What about the Josh Jared matchup? Were you surprised by that one at all?
So I was slightly surprised, but the one thing that killed Josh was just his running backs. Obviously his running backs are kind of his horses between Mike Davis, Jonathan Taylor, and Cam Akers for the Rams. But the one thing that's hurting his team is 2 of them Cam Akers was injured a little bit earlier in the game and was sitting out for a while, and I don't think he was ever 100%. And the Rams game was just a total debacle between the Jets. I mean, the Jets have a surprisingly good run defense, but still you expect that the Rams would be able to at least run up the score and Akers get at least 10 points from them. And in the end, it kind of came to it came down to the Monday night matchup. And I know we sent the group text trying to stimulate a little conversation, hoping to get 16 points from somebody. And it just wasn't the case. None of the three got them. I know you said Claypool would be your suggestion. I said Juju. And in the end, no one was really even that close. I mean, I think the max was 8 or 9 points, and even between T. Higgins, and there just wasn't much that Josh can do. And so now it's on to the next week, and you got to look at Sapp, and it's a big I mean, it's the matchup we all deserve. Those two belong in the Sacco. They've been last two the whole entire year, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yep. We'll definitely get to that. How about on the winner side? Let's start with not your matchup. Let's start with Pooty. Anything you want to talk about Pooty? I know he's going to be your opponent this week. I mean, the squad looks really good. Josh Allen balls out. I mean, once you saw Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs going ham, you kind of saw the writing on the wall of how this was going to go for Bill there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much between that Josh Allen and Diggs start. I mean, Josh Stallion, he just absolutely keeps running up the score on everybody. That was Pooty's. I mean, besides getting Dalvin Cook, I think number 7 overall, which him being the number 2 running back. I mean, even though Josh Stallion is a good value for how late he had him, getting a top 3 running back at number 7 is something that you can't replace. Quarterbacks can be replaced, but running backs, that elite tier, cannot. So Dalvin Cook had himself a hell of a game as always, and Josh Stallion and Stephon Diggs actually might be one of his better picks as well. So
I was just going to say, I just looked. Stephon Diggs is a top 5 receiver. Right now he's at number 4. I don't know if they've added this week's game in or not, but he's number 4 right now from what I can tell. And he got picked in the 6th round. So, I mean, and then if you add the fact that you kind of stack him with Josh Stallion, I mean, talk about an electric, selection right there. So good for Pooty, making some fun picks right there.
He's got a hell of a stack there. And then also looking on the other side really quickly, Bill Tino, he had his two main catalysts, I think, for his team, speaking high level, are Russell Wilson and Chris Carson. He loved the Seahawks stacks. And this past week against Washington, they've just kind of sputtered on offense just in general, and they haven't been able to produce as much touchdowns as they did early in the year. Zeke was hurt, but that actually ended up benefiting him because Tony Pollard got the full workload. Whole bunch of catches, ended up dropping almost 30 points. And the one thing that did hurt his team was Keenan Allen being injured. But like Bill said in the group chat, Pooty had himself a week, and this has been Pooty's year. It might be the team of destiny going into the playoffs. It seemed like Pooty and Ross were the 2 teams that were destined for a collision course because they've absolutely been killing it all year. But luckily for me, I upholded King Henry, and I'm going for back-to-back, bitches.
Yeah, quick on Bill's team. I 2 weeks ago, so the last podcast that I was on, I said the best thing for Bill would happen is if Zeke just sits out and he gets 100% Tony Pollard. Mm-hmm. And that was the case. Tony Pollard looked really good. And then the other one was Keenan Allen. So there got news really late that Keenan Allen was going to be kind of limited on his snap count. So I was kind of surprised that he stuck him in there still. But when you looked at Bill's team, he didn't have a lot of options. At the end, it wouldn't have mattered. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap, So I think that pretty much summarizes that matchup. Now, I suppose we better talk about the Ross and Kirby matchup here.
Well, I just want to take this moment to celebrate something great in life. Me. I mean, I start 2-6 in the depths. I mean, I remember the game to be have a chance to make the playoffs. I had to beat Kyler in week 8, and I lost that matchup. But you know what? We go 4-1 down the stretch, 2-0 in the playoffs. 3 of the last 4 weeks, I'm the highest score in the league, just wheeling and dealing. And Ross, he had some horses. I mean, King Henry and Kamara, they had some good games. But you know what? Sometimes you just need to take a moment and respect greatness, and there's not much more you can do. I mean, I'm going for back-to-back ships. I mean, 3 of the last 4 years now have been the championship game. I mean, you can't deny excellence, and that's what your commission's here for, man. I mean, you can laugh all you want, but you got any other words?
I can't believe you can fit that head still in this frame up there. I gotta say Ross did get a little screwed by COVID. Whether it would have mattered, I don't know. But Gaskins and Rojo, out with COVID, I'm sure didn't help. Julio, having no Julio didn't help either. So that obviously was a big factor. But when you score 139, that's usually a recipe for success on your side. You were considering the Herbert. Weren't you back and forth between Herbert and Tannehill? Wasn't that kind of your
I ended
decision?
up choosing incorrectly between Herbert, even though he scored 28 on Thursday night. That was incorrect by 10 points.
Yeah, you got that last second running back, your quarterback sneak for a touchdown there. You were thinking you made the right call, and then Tannehill goes Bomsky. But honestly, from what's made the difference on your team, it's been the Kelsey Hill. Those guys get a touchdown every goddamn game. Tyreek Hill's leading the league in touchdowns, and Travis Kelce's leading the league in receiving yards. So those two have made the absolute difference on your team. But yeah, I think a good game there. I think if Ross was Axman, he might call an asterisk on that game because he didn't have all the horses. But that's why the game is played. It's not done on paper. So kudos to you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the last things that obviously we'll kind of touch base on this in our year-end wrap-up podcast, which might be a little long because we want to talk a whole bunch of year-end review trades. But I think one of the trades that was the biggest game changer for me now looking back was Ronald Jones and Eric Ebron for Darren Waller, because in the playoffs, Darren Waller obviously went absolutely off for Kyler this past week. And it also set the foundation for me acquiring Kelsey. Whereas I also lucked out this week, apparently in the playoffs, with Ebron getting injured on Monday Night Football, scoring 0 points, and Ronald Jones being on the COVID list. So obviously hindsight is 2020. There's zero way that we can project that. And Ross made the right move at the time because Gaskin was injured and he needed that more running back depth. But I did get lucky in that sense that the 1 week that I played Ross in the playoffs, those two players ended up scoring 0 points, one of them that he started, whereas the trade that I made for Waller laid the foundation for me to get Kelsey, which is a positional advantage that was just huge for me. So it's something that we'll obviously touch base on at the end of the year with some trades and all that stuff, recaps, but it was a good win. And I know Ross was the number one team I was scared about because Derrick Henry has dropped, I think, multiple 30 burgers on me against me. And so him only scoring 24 was a blessing in disguise, which is hard to say, but we'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. We'll get into some of those trades, but I think the Tyreek Hill the Kelsey was the one that got everybody's attention because it got so much hoopla and discussion. But the Tyreek Hill, I mean, if you keep Will Fuller and Devon or what's the Montgomery. I don't think you make the playoffs, to be honest with you.
So that's the interesting thing, and let's just put a bow in it, and we'll touch base on it next week. But the one interesting is Montgomery, the past 4 weeks, is the number one running back.
Right.
And so
that's been the last 4 weeks, but I don't think you get there without Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? Because you would have lost. I don't know. We'll dig into it.
Potentially would have lost. We'll do the deep dive at the end of the year. So you know what? Let's just touch base really quick. Are we touching base on the championship matchup or the Sacco playoffs first? What's your dealer's choice here? What do you want?
Let's do the championship matchup first, and then save the people's choice for last.
All right. So obviously I'm in it, and Pooty just sent me a text earlier today. He just sent me 2 words. You nervous? And I just said LOL. Dude, honest, and this is honest opinion. I feel like I'm lucky to be in the playoffs. Once you start a season 2-6, I mean, in all honesty, it's 9 times out of 10, you're waving up the white flag. I happen to make a few good deals, and I feel like I'm playing with house money. Obviously, the pressure of trying to go back-to-back increases a little bit of pressure, but honestly, I made my cash a little bit this year, and so I think winning it would obviously be icing on the cake. I think I got a good team. There are some potential matchups that I think are a little bit favorable to me. I like that the Vikings players are playing against the Saints off a tough loss against the Chiefs on Christmas Day, and 2 of Pooty's big studs, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs was recently injured last week, and they're playing against the Patriots, which traditionally is a tough matchup, but Gilmore is now out for the year, which is their top cornerback. So there's a whole lot of layers with it. I think it's going to be a good matchup. I think it's my new philosophy this year, which may be something I look into in the future, is instead of always focusing on those elite running backs, try to attain those elite wide receivers that get production every single week because they're a lot more consistent and don't get injured. And I'm hoping that that can outweigh Pootie's elite running back production, and we'll see how it goes. What are your thoughts?
I just on that last part that you said, elite wide receivers that don't get injured. Tell that to Kyler, who drafted Michael Thomas in the first round. I'm sure he might argue.
That's the truth. That's 100% true. I mean, there's obviously a whole bunch of abnormalities, but I guess if you look at the top 5 receivers that were drafted last year, I'm going off the top of my head. We had Devontae Adams, who cashed in, DeAndre Hopkins, who cashed in, Tyreek Hill, who cashed in, Michael Thomas did not. And then there was one more, Julio Jones, which I would say kind of cashed in, but it's kind of a 50-50 one with that. So at least, whenever he's playing, he's producing elite production, but when he's not playing, which has been the past few weeks, it's been a little bit tough.
Yeah. And I think, diving into the matchup a little bit, I know Pootie, I was talking to Pootie about this a little bit earlier, and he's obviously on paper, your matchups look better this week than his do. You've got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce against Atlanta, which is juicy as hell. You're hoping for like a 40 to 45 game or something, like an absolute shootout. I think it's in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
I looked, not in the dome. So you got to be hoping for good weather there. But obviously that's a juicy matchup. Hopkins has been playing really well. I think when I looked at Pootie's matchups, the Dalvin Cook against New Orleans on paper isn't as good, but I do think it's a short week for the Saints. I don't think that one's quite as bad as maybe, as it looks on paper, I don't think. But then on the flip side, Nick Chubb against the Jets, like you kind of mentioned it earlier, the Jets have a better run defense than you would think, So, I think those might offset each other. The Diggs is a big part of this. That's the Monday night game, and they played on Thursday, right? Or Saturday.
Yes,
Saturday.
That's correct.
So they get a little bit extra time to recover. I'm not as plugged in as I usually am, but from what I've seen, it sounds like he's going to play, right?
Yeah, that's the consensus around here. I guess the real question is, how much do they truly have to play for? If the Chiefs hypothetically win already, and if the Chiefs win on Sunday, then the Bills technically don't have much to play for. I mean, besides being a 2 or 3 seed, which the question is, how important is that when you're already guaranteed home field advantage? So that's the difference in what the determining factor is. They do have the head-to-head tiebreaker against the Steelers.
Okay. Yeah. So that's another wrench in the gears that I didn't even, think about. So I was thinking that Diggs might have enough time to get back. Plus there's no Stephon Gilmore, but you never know. If there's nothing to play for, that obviously throws a wrench in the gear. So, honestly, on paper, you're projected to win. Your team looks like it has the blow up potential this week. I just tell you what, there is something about Pootie's team. It's the team of destiny right now.
Yep.
We said it way back, how many weeks ago? We said, from a guy who has never made the playoffs to be in the finals, he just has this team of destiny feel to it. And I don't know, if you want to comment on this, but you have had to make such a push from, week 8 to when it started to matter. If the squad's gonna be able to keep going, or are they gonna run out of gas with, right at the finish line? So I don't know. On paper, it looks like, you should take the dub, but Pootie's team has a team of destiny, and luckily this game isn't played on paper, it's played on the gridiron. So I'm kind of excited to see how this one shakes out.
It's going to be a hell of a game. And you know what? I feel like I take Pootie a little bit under my wing. He asks me from time to time some of my advice and what he thinks of things. So I'm thrilled to be playing against him in the championship. I think there's a great matchup, and I feel good for Ashley not having to put up ball sack trophy in their place. Sorry, Morgan, Sammy, but you guys got to deal with it. Tell your husbands to talk to me or Zach more to get a little better advice. But it's going to be interesting. I got a few tough lineup decisions on my hand that I'm not going to know what to do with. But you know what? This is why we play the game. I'm happy I'm in this position when I started the year 2-6, and the rest is gravy. I'm hoping for the back-to-back ships to match Schultes, and we're going to have ourselves a hell of a game. But you know what? That's why we play the game. And let's just touch base very quickly, and then we'll wrap it all up with the Sacco Championships. Sap and Josh, I mean, the number one waiver priority versus the number waiver two priority all year. Records have been set that will never be broken, can only be tied. I don't know which way to go, because one of the cons of Josh's team is potentially Christian McCaffrey's coming back, which hurts Mike Davis. We already have rules of Cam Akers being out that he won't be able to play. So now all of a sudden he doesn't have potentially of his top two running backs. Do you think Josh is going to be sharp enough? 'Cause we're not going to post this, I think, until tomorrow morning. Do you think Josh is smart enough to pick up one of those top running backs or potentially George Kittle on the waiver wire this morning?
So the one thing that you did forget to mention, though, is that he's got Le'Veon Bell, and there's no Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
That's true.
So he does have a little bit of an out there. I do think you're right. I do think Mike Davis and Cam Akers are kind of off the table for him, but he did get kind of a gift with with Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting hurt. So he should have Le'Veon Bell in basically the Clyde Edwards-Helaire role, which is the first and second down back. So he can kind of make up for it. You mentioned George Kittle. I gotta believe he's the number one pickup this week for Josh, because I just can't imagine that. Well, maybe Sapp had Kittle all last year, but he's got Gronk. I just don't know if Sapp would, unless he wants to go the double tight end move again.
I solely don't know if they're sharp enough. Like I mean, I wonder if they did their waiver wire additions early this morning, where Kittle wasn't projecting any points, because he wasn't projecting any points, I don't think, until noon. And
right.
So if they did their waiver additions until then, I mean, Pooty, breaking news, I am putting Kittle as my number one claim, so you cannot have him. I mean, I know Logan Thomas did well for you, but I'm not going up against George Kittle, so you will not be getting Kittle, Pooty.
Yeah, I talked to Pooty, and I said if you were before Kirby, he might have a shot at getting Kittle, but I said Kirby's smart enough to block, so no matter what, Pooty will not get Kittle. But I said if the two hooligans at the bottom are smart, I mean, that's an instant plug and play. It's a little bit dicey, but I think with George Kittle, you got to do it, especially for Axe, who's got Cole Kmet in there. I mean, if he can get George Kittle in his lineup, that's a game changer. Plus he gets Jalen Hurts, who's looked really good against the Dallas defense, who is terrible. And then, so all of a sudden Axe's team goes from what I think is probably the favorite for the Sacco to, a serious contender that Sapp should be really nervous about. So I think if things go the way they should, Axe is going to be having Le'Veon Bell in that running back spot, and then he's going to have George Kittle in that tight end spot. And all of a sudden that might change the tides right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's neck and neck. I mean, I'm looking at the projection, which obviously is throwing things off. He has Cam Akers and Mike Davis in his lineup, which isn't going to stand. But it's honestly, I think their matchup is going to be a coin flip. I think if one of the two are smart enough to get Kittle, I'm going to give them the W. But I wouldn't be potentially neither of them are going to be sharp enough to pick that up. I mean, they're the bottom two for a reason. And so if they keep it as is, I am going to give this is tough. I mean, we're just going to make our final I feel like we got to end the podcast with our final predictions and then call it a good night. I'm going to give the edge, I think. I'm going to say Josh wins. I like Jalen Hurts. I think he's got blow-up potential. I think Sapp makes a mistake in starting Tom Brady. This is solely based on Sapp starting Tom Brady. And I think that's going to be a mistake. And I'm just going to roll with it. So I'm going to go with Josh winning and Sapp having that Sacco trophy in this place. What are you thinking, man?
I was going to ask you if Sapp's love for Tom Brady was going to hurt him, because I think no matter what, he's his ride or die. Like, Sapp's going to roll with Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who he's got. He's going to play Tom Brady. That's just the way Sapp rolls. And I think, it might sink a ship this week. I think so. Going into tonight, I was thinking that because Sapp's team is peaks and valleys, right? He'll score 110 last week, but he's also scored 39 points. So you get a wide range. But Axman is that constant 85, 89, 91, 85. Axe is consistent. So the question was going to be, is this an up or a down week for Sapp? You know what? I think Axe, I think he picks up Kittle. I think he puts Le'Veon Bell in his lineup. And I think Sapp comes home with the nutsack trophy. And, I know he's going to say this because he's my fantasy football mortal enemy. That's the only reason I'm picking this. But I think that Axman's going to make the right moves when it matters. He's going to luck into Kittle. He's going to luck into Jalen Hurts down the stretch. And he's going to avoid the Sacco Trophy even after the horrendous year that he had. And after that, it's not going to matter because he didn't get the Sacco and nobody's going to remember how bad he was all year. So I think Axman, you know what? I think he's going to make the right moves. I have faith in his prowess, despite him saying that this is under protest. I have faith in his prowess. He's going to make the right moves, and I think he's going to come with the victory, but I think it's going to be close.
All right. Well, you know what? I think I got to post this late night tonight, and hopefully I don't think that if I post this at 10 o'clock tonight, I don't think anyone's watching it tonight. So hopefully they don't pay attention to all this shit, but I want to get this posted tonight so people can listen to it first thing in the morning. But I guess that leaves one last prediction, and then we'll call it good. Me versus Pooty. Looking at our matchup, I mean, I know I'm the projected favorite, but there's one little small thing that you kind of hinted on was Dalvin Cook against New Orleans, which looks like a bad matchup on paper. But the thing is, Dalvin Cook is so good in the receiving game. I remember 2 weeks ago when I played you, the Falcons were with top 5 rushing defense, but it didn't take into account how the running backs are in receptions. And that's when Eckler had, I believe, 10 to 11 receptions, which racked up all his points. I foresee that kind of game from Dalvin Cook. And if you're asking me honestly, I think Josh Allen and Diggs are full go. I think Gilmore is absolutely kicking ass. Gilmore is out, which means Diggs is kicking ass and taking names. I think Pooty's going to get his one win. I think he's got an interesting decision in his flex, which obviously is going to be hard. He's got Lazard King rocking his old Iowa State roots, but he's got other players like DJ Moore and Melvin Gordon, and it's going to be an interesting decision. But if you're asking me to put money on the game, I will put Pooty with the slight edge just because I trust running back production over receiver production every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Boy, you're hitting that reverse psychology hard. You're trying to flip the odds in your favor. I tried it last year with the breakfast pizza. Be careful with that, Curb. That's a slippery slope. I'm just going to warn you there. Trust me, from a guy who knows.
I did cover the spread against you. Just remember that. I called me covering the spread against you.
So, like you said, I think Dalvin Cook against New Orleans looks worse on paper. I do think Cook has a chance to blow up in this game because I think the Vikings are still fighting for their playoff lives, right?
Yes, they are. I mean, unfortunately, with their loss to the Bears last week, they're all but eliminated, but so that's going to be the only thing. Like, potentially they could be eliminated and restrict his time. So that could be the only thing that throws a pitfall in it. But you never know what's going to happen.
So, and I think Chubb will get to a 20-point game just with sheer volume. I just don't think there's any way that the Jets, win another game. I think it's going to be an absolute blowout. So I've got, I think Pooty is a team of destiny on paper right now. He's showing like he's going to get beat, but he's the team of destiny. You also mentioned this. I had it written down in my notes. Allen Lazard in his flex. If it was me, I'm looking very hard at Melvin Gordon III in his flex position because I think him against the Chargers is a better option than Lazard personally. But Pooty's his own man. He's got to make his own decisions. But I just think Pooty is a team of destiny, and I'm not betting against him right now.
And I'm just going to speak for the truth. I don't think Pooty's going to beat me. A whole bunch of other shit was just me hedging my bets. I'm going to beat Pooty. It's not even a question. That's when the sensei beats down on his little pupil like Bill Belichick does against every little bitch that he tries to coach up. So, Pooty, we're coming for your ass. Back-to-back championship. Put that belt around me. Can't wait to see your mitigated payout.
Now, you got to be careful. Again, Kurt, you said Belichick beats down his pupils, but he has one black pupil in Brian Flores. And what happened last week was the Dolphins beat Belichick, beat the Patriots. I'm just saying.
When you had Cam Newton at quarterback, look who I got.
Got to be careful, Curb. Got to be careful, Curb.
You know what? you know what? If I go down swinging. I came down from 2-6, and I'm in the Yarski championship game. I can't expect for much more. But you know what? We're already probably running a little bit low, long on time. Shit, not low, long on time. The Bud Lights are getting to me, everybody. I'm back in the CC, you already know. But Zach, I think this is the last regular season or playoff podcast that we're going to have, and then we're going to have the season recap, and maybe we'll give you guys a bonus surprise after. But any last thoughts that you want for the people, my man?
Yeah, next time we'll talk, we'll know who gets to have the belt and who gets to hang the Sacco. You kind of touched on it. We're working on a little something behind the scenes. Hopefully we can put something together. I think that'd be kind of fun. So yeah, next time we'll get together and talk about some of the wrap ups and stuff. But yeah, I think this weekend's gonna be a lot of fun. Merry Christmas, everybody. After this, we're gonna know who's the Sacco and who's the champ. So it's been crazy. I can't believe it's the end of the year already. But yeah, it's gonna be wild. I'm excited.
It's been a hell of a ride. I mean, it was a hell of a first year for the Yars Cup, and you know what? This has been a lot of fun. Just me and you catching up every week on fantasy football. Love having our guests, and we love bringing on Morgan and Sammy. So thanks again for them. And outside of that, everyone have a great Christmas holiday. Enjoy. If you're working tomorrow, I feel sorry for you. And if not, enjoy listening to this whenever the hell you're having yourself a nice whiskey Coke, hopefully at noon o'clock, and go kick some ass and take some names, my man. Zach, have a good one, my brother. To everyone else in the Yars Cap, let's ride, baby.
Peace.